Hello and welcome. I'm James Murphy from mcoding.io, where I offer 9-week programming courses. Today, we're going to be talking about JSON and how to use it in Python. JSON, or JavaScript Object Notation, is a way of describing data. JSON isn't specific to Python. Any programming language is going to have libraries for reading and writing JSON, but it kind of serves as a common ground for everyone to work with. So let's start with this data that we have. It's a Python object that I've called data, and let's see how we can convert it into JSON. First, of course, we need to import the JSON library, and then if we want to see the string representation of our Python data object, then we can do so like this, using the dump s method. The s here is for string. So if we run this program, then we see the first line is the way that Python prints data, and the second line is the string representation of the JSON formatting of the same data. So you can see there's not a whole lot of differences. You can put a bunch of different types of data in JSON. Here we have string, we have a Boolean, integer, floating point value, and even a list. And then the whole thing is a dictionary. And it doesn't stop there. You can compose these components as much as you want. So if I wanted this to be a list of dictionaries of strings to lists, that's also fine. So with dump, we saw how to go from a Python object to a JSON string. But what if you want to do the opposite? Well, that's what load is for. So if we take that same string, we can use load s, and again, the s here is for string. We can load s that string to get a Python object out of it. And then I'll just assert here that the object that we get out from loading the string is the same as the original data. And if I run the code, you see that that assertion passes. More commonly, though, you're not going to be reading and writing from strings. That might just be for debugging purposes. More often, you would want to be writing to and reading from files. So if you want to write to a file, the JSON representation of an object, you can do it this way. So if I run this code, and then I go open the file, so you can see after opening the file, I now have what was printed out before in the string representation. I now have that stored in a file. Similarly, if I have the file written already, or got that data from somewhere else and I want to read it, I can do so like this, using the load method. And again, I'm just asserting here that the data that I read in is equal to the original data that I started with. So as you can see, in Python, it's extremely easy to read and write JSON data, either from strings or files. We use dump, or dump s, to take a Python object and convert it to JSON, and we use load, or load s, to take a JSON thing and convert it into a Python object. So why exactly would you want to use JSON? First and foremost, JSON is human readable, meaning when I look at this data, I can look in and see the actual data. It makes sense to me. It's not compressed, it's not in a binary format. So if I wanted to go in and say change value, I can do that and I can understand my data just by looking at it. There are, of course, other libraries for storing data. The first one that comes to mind is the Pickle library. But if you were to use the Pickle library, you would find that the data doesn't come out in a human readable format. It basically looks like garbage with a few human readable strings mixed in. So while pickling might save you a little bit of extra space, I think for development purposes, JSON being human readable is much more useful. The second reason that you might want to use JSON is that it's kind of the de facto standard on the internet. There are lots of websites that have APIs set up that respond to your requests in JSON. Here I'll go ahead and import the requests library, which you can use to easily get information from a website. Then let's go to the bottom here and add these two lines. So this is just a sample JSON API. It's not returning any real user data. This is just for demonstration purposes. With the requests library, you can just as easy as this call request.get, put in the URL, and that will do a get request to that URL. This URL will respond with JSON, and the requests library has a built-in called .json, which will automatically do what load s would do. So if we run this code, you can see that this has returned to me a bunch of user data. And you can see that if I print the type of this object, let me go ahead and run it again, that this is actually a Python list. So it's not printing out the string. This .json method actually does do the loading. So there you have it. JSON is human readable. It's the de facto standard for web APIs, and any programming language can read and write it. It's very simple to do in Python, and we just saw how to read and write using load and dump. Hope you learned a little something from this quick introduction to JSON. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.